Welcome to MILF Ministry podcast, where we explore self-love, healing, and intimacy. My name is Ayodele Vassell. I'm an attorney, a creative, and a MILF. Merch is now available at milfministry.com. You can join our live conversations on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter by following at MILF Ministry. Today's topic is growth, and we're looking at my journey of facing yourself. If you've never listened to another episode before, one of the most important things for me was to be able to have sex and have an orgasm without a boyfriend / husband / this man loves me. I wanted to be able to just have sex with someone and be able to climax. And because I had been in a relationship with one person for so long, as you can imagine, when I first started to have sex with a brand new man, it was very difficult to just get there mentally because I was used to someone that knew me. So I wasn't used to having to explain myself or my needs or my wants, and everything was focused on outward. Like, am I good enough for him? Am I sexy for him? Am I whatever? All these things that really don't matter for your personal pleasure. I deal with a lot, and the biggest thing that I deal with and struggle with to this day is overthinking. I'm an attorney by trade. I always tell people, attorney by trade, type A personality, oldest of 5 children, Scorpio. All of that is a great combination professionally because I'm always looking for solutions. I'm always looking at different options, option A, B, C, D. And if not this, then that. And if not that, then this. My brain is constantly working. So it's great in terms of finding solutions as a creative producer. It's great for finding legal solutions or legal, just options for the people that I work with on a daily basis when I'm working as an attorney. It is not necessarily the best trait to have in your personal relationship. Fortunately, it's something that I'm working on, but I could meet someone and I could literally be married, divorced, go through how our children would grow, why we're compatible, why we're not compatible, why it would work for a few years and why it would end. Like, I have that kind of mind. Once again, great for storytelling, great for solving problems, not so great for being in a relationship, because a relationship, you want to examine your partner, to understand whether or not you'll be compatible with them just based on who you are as a person. But you don't want to use predictive coding to count somebody out, or use predictive coding like this relationship can only go here, or, based on this, then that. Like, it can never be outside of what you create in your mind, because that's not fair. Like, we're humans. We have experiences. People grow, people change. You're going to grow. You're going to change. So I just wanted to start the podcast out with that disclaimer that by nature, I'm an overthinker, and I really have had to tackle that aspect of myself for my own personal happiness. Because what happens is I would create scenarios that are totally not true, that are totally they're not based in reality or anything. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? And that would make me anxious. It would make me afraid. It could make me angry. It could make me feel rejected. It could make me feel jealous. Mind you, these are not things that are based in reality. This is me just saying, oh my goodness, what if I go out to eat and I see him out with another woman, right? Just a random example. Now, if your partner gives you a reason to believe that they may be cheating on you, then obviously, you can ignore what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about tapping into something that's actually going on. You know what I'm saying? And in your gut, you're like, based on his behavior, something doesn't feel right. I'm talking about having an overactive imagination where you're constantly creating different scenarios and different realities. Like I said, which is good if you're creating content. Because you're like, oh, well, this could happen with my character, or that could happen with the character. It is not at all ideal for your regular life when you're just trying to relax and enjoy moments and have fun. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be very, very clear. So that's definitely something that everyone that's listening to the podcast needs to understand when I talk about facing myself, because that one simple act of, because people, well, I guess let me backtrack a little bit. So people suffer with anxiety, people suffer with fear, people have rejection issues, all that stuff. But the fact that I, by nature, tend to overthink amplifies all of the issues that we're talking about. So the normal level of anxiety, the normal level of fear, issues with rejection that people may deal with, the fact that I overthink can amplify that. And what I noticed, especially in 2017 and 2018, thank goodness this year is a better year. But what I noticed was when I decided to be intimate with a man, my fear of rejection kicked in like it was an overdrive. It just really, really was through the roof. And it made me anxious to reach out to just say, hey, I want to spend time. It made me anxious to hear a reaction. God forbid we had to reschedule an activity or something like that. I mean, 2017 was really, really bad. Really, really bad. And I remember reaching out to my father and saying, Dad, I feel like I'm struggling with something that is not, this is not really connected to a man. I believe this is my own issue. So, because remember, this episode is about facing yourself. So I was like, this is not connected to a man. Like I'm feeling way too anxious, if someone, like waiting on someone to text me back. I'm feeling way too much anxiety if someone wants to reschedule, or even just worrying about if somebody wants to reschedule. And the practical part of me knows that this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, if someone wants to spend time with you, cool. If they don't, cool. Like, it's not a big deal. You just spend time with someone else, or you do something, you spend time alone. Like, it's not the end of the world if you don't go out on a date this Thursday night. Like, so the practical part of me understands that. And the practical part of me was very like, I only want to spend time with people, with men that want to spend time with me. So if he doesn't want to spend time, cool. You just find somebody that wants to spend time with you, right? That's the practical side of me. But the emotional side of me was just like, oh my gosh, this is devastating. Like, he took 2 hours to answer my text. What does that mean? And it sounds very high schoolish and very silly, but this is my truth. And this is what I went through. And I looked at myself and was like, okay, this is not cool. Like, cause I already knew that it didn't make any sense, but I understood that I was having this very emotional reaction. And I was like, the only way I can resolve whatever is going on is to really face myself and say, why is it like, if I text one of my friends that I'm not having sex with, I don't go into panic mode. Like, if I'm supposed to meet a friend at the movies and we decide to move it to next week, I don't go into panic mode. If I text one of my friends and we're supposed to go out to eat and they take 3 hours to answer me, I don't go into panic mode, right? They were at work or whatever the fuck they were doing. Like, they were busy. Like, they took a few hours to answer. But for some reason, in my mind, once I started having sex with someone, it was like, if they weren't on my schedule, that was a problem, which meant I was being rejected. So fortunately, like I said, a part of my journey was me sitting down with myself saying, okay, what behaviors are healthy? What's not healthy? And like I said, back in 2017, I was like, I know that you've been married and I know that you were used to this type of interaction. But what I really identified was when I was married, I had a level of security. So it didn't matter. Just like with your friends, you have a level of security. Like, Doesn't matter how long they take to answer you. They're going to answer you because that's your friend. It doesn't matter how long your husband takes to answer you. That's your husband. So you're secure that you're going to get an answer. When I'm interacting with, when I first started having sex in 2017, I had no level of security with my male partners. That was unsettling for me because I like to kind of predict outcomes, right? And when you're interacting with someone that you don't have security with, quote unquote security with, you can't predict the outcome. They may feel like hanging out with you that day. They may not the next day. So the foundation of this is my friend, so we'll just schedule next week, or this is my husband, we'll just do something another day. That foundation wasn't there. And I realized that at an emotional level, I was uncomfortable with that. And then I had to ask myself, why? Like, once again, why does it matter? Like, you're single. So if this man doesn't want to go out with you, you go out with somebody else. Like, that's not anything to lose sleep over. Right. But I had to face myself and acknowledge that I was having these emotional reactions to something that I knew it just wasn't it wasn't rational. And so I decided to face myself and I start identifying triggers. Like, what is making me anxious? What am I afraid of? What's up with rejection? Like, who cares? What's making me angry? Why do I have certain expectations of someone that I'm having sex with, right? Like, why does the expectation change? So now we're having sex and I send you a text and you literally have seconds to answer me, or I go into a panic. Like, why, where does that expectation come, like, where did that come from? Because once again, you didn't do that to your ex-husband. You didn't do that. You don't do that with your friends. You don't do that with your family. So why are you doing it with the person that you're having sex with? Like, and once again, I said that was, to me, I isolated it as, okay, you don't feel secure in your relationship with this person. And so that is how they can show you. Like, that quick response is just a way of saying, oh yeah, I'm interested in you. Oh yeah, I like you. You wanted to know that. But once again, is that based in reality, right? Because just because someone answers you quickly doesn't mean that they give a fuck about you at all. They could just have their phone beside them and happen to answer you quickly. That's not based on you being special to them or them loving you or them even respecting you. They could just literally be someone that happens to answer the phone quickly. Right. So once again, this is me being rational versus the emotional part of me. So we can kind of break down each emotion. And then I'm going to really talk to you about the biggest one, which is fear. Because I think fear is connected to everything. So fear was connected to my anxiety. It was connected to rejection. It was connected to anger. It was connected to things that I saw growing up that I didn't want to be. And me feeling like that's what I am anyway. Like, it's just, we can go on and on and on. I don't want to dive too deep, but long story short, fear, in my mind, fear was the driving force of everything that I had to face. And if I could face just the concept of fear and set myself free, it would help to ease my anxiety. It would help to ease, my fear of rejection. It would help to ease my anger over like being a divorced mom and having to restart my life and having to trust again, which is a big deal for me. Like, I wasn't happy that I had to start over. And even though it was my choice to leave, I was not happy that I had to start over and kind of work my way through who I was as a woman and what kind of relationship I wanted to have with men. Especially sexually. I wasn't happy about that. So there was a lot of anger connected to that. And shame, like I failed at marriage. I couldn't make it work. And I now have a child that I'm responsible for. And I couldn't stay committed to my partnership or to the agreement that I made to be my ex-husband's wife and, to be a mother that raised her child, like the mother and the father, and you're all in the same household together. That was what my grandparents did. That was what my parents did. So I assumed that that's what I would do. And I felt very selfish for saying and the truth, which was I was not happy. So it was like, I'm not happy. I don't know if anybody will ever love me again, but I know that I'm not happy and I have to move forward. Like I have to leave this situation and move forward. We'll start with anxiety. And when I'm facing myself, when I talk about facing myself, a lot of what I faced has nothing to do with being in a relationship with a man. But because this is MILF Ministry podcast, most of my focus and most of my healing and the journey that I'm sharing with you is about my sexual experiences and how me facing myself helped to set myself free and led to me having better sexual experiences. So we can start with anxiety. One of the first things that I was anxious about was trusting myself to be able to even choose the right partner again. Another thing I was anxious about is how to not be quote unquote overbearing, because I've always felt like I was too much, like I loved too hard, or I gave too much, or that I was overbearing. So I walked around with, like, I didn't trust myself. And I felt like if I was just going to be myself and be vulnerable, that nobody would be attracted to that. What helped me with that anxiety was the decision that I am who I am, and who I am cannot be, I guess, negative, so to speak. Like, you are who you are, and who you are is your gift. So rather than worry about if I could trust myself again, or worry about if me being emotional or me being loving is too much, let me take a step back and think about, what do I want? And so the way I was able to get around my anxiety was for me to be honest with myself and think about what I wanted from a man emotionally. And I discussed this in another podcast episode, the episode where we talk about being honest. So being honest with myself helped me with my anxiety, because I was no longer concerned with who was going to accept me. My focus was, I have to accept me, right? So Ayodele, you are emotional. That is you. You cannot hide it. You cannot mask it. It won't last. You are emotional. You are responsible for how you handle your emotions, but you don't need to be ashamed for being an emotional person. Ayodele, if you sit down with yourself and think about what you want from a partner, you absolutely can trust yourself to choose a good partner for yourself. So once again, being honest with myself helped me face some major anxiety about choosing a partner again and about being myself. And once I decided to just be myself, good, bad, ugly, emotional, talkative, like, I mean, any man that's been with me long for, you know what I'm saying? Like in an actual relationship will tell you that Ayodele loves to talk. We're going to talk about her feelings. We're going to talk about my feelings, aka his feelings. We're going to get to the root of the matter. And if you want to be with me, like, you just, like, that's just a part of it. There's no escaping it. There's just no escaping it. I'm someone that likes to deal with feelings. I'm an emotional person. And instead of like running away from that, I was just like, this is who I am. And I don't intend to be overbearing. And here's an example of that. So now how I've learned how to manage who I am is, if I need to talk to my partner, I will simply say, there's something that I'd like to discuss with you. Can you please let me know when you have time to discuss it? Right? So that's how I counter the overbearing part, because the old version of me would just be like, this is bothering me. I want to talk about it now. I wouldn't care if you're at work. I wouldn't care if you want to sleep. I wouldn't care if you had a bad day. I wouldn't care if you were mentally ready to deal with whatever I wanted to talk about. And that's not fair. And it doesn't matter how hurt I am about whatever it is. I've learned in facing myself that when you're in a partnership, you have to take a step back and give your partner the opportunity to hear what you want to discuss. And some people may say, well, that's not cool because what if he wants to take a day, or what if he wants to take a week, or what if... Now, I'm talking about dealing with a partner that's healthy, dealing with a partner that respects you and loves you and actually wants to see you happy, right? So it may take a little bit longer than you want, but ultimately you're operating from a place of trust, which is my partner cares about me. He knows something is bothering me, and we will get an opportunity to discuss it. I'm not coming from a place where someone may be toxic and has no intention of discussing what's bothering you. I just want to be very clear. So let's, for the sake of this podcast, assume that you have a good partner in your life that actually does love you and wants to get, and forget love, because you know that me and partnership and sex is not even based on love. You have a partner that cares about you and wants to see you happy and wants to protect whatever kind of relationship you all have decided to have. And so from that place, when it comes to talking about whatever is bothering you, you're approaching it from a very respectful place. Okay, so when you get off work, I would like to talk about XYZ. Or in 2 or 3 days, I would like to talk about XYZ. And understanding that that's okay. It's okay to give them time. And what that did for me, it freed me so much. I can't even describe how much it freed me, because I still have to be myself. As I said, I'm emotional. But because I have a partner, then you realize, okay, well, that person is not on your schedule. They don't operate on your wavelength, so you have to give them some space to hear you, to receive you. And I guess another thing that helps with anxiety is just knowing that it's not that you have a perfect partner, just knowing that someone is really rocking with you from a place of care and genuine connection, and knowing that you will be heard eventually, right? You're going to be heard. So that's some things that I did to help with anxiety. Next, we'll talk about fear. And fear, like I said, fear pretty much covers a lot of things, but I want to talk about fear separately. So fear and overthinking go hand in hand, because a lot of my thoughts, unfortunately, were negative about what if I experience this negative thing? What if I experience that negative thing? So like I brought up a scenario of an embarrassing situation, which is you're out with your girlfriends and you see your boyfriend having drinks with some woman, and you don't know you don't know who she is, you don't know the circumstances, you don't know anything, and so now you're embarrassed. And like I said, me thinking of scenarios like that were not based on, oh, I don't trust who I'm with. It was literally based on just fear. And I think it was my mind saying, okay, well, anything can happen. So let's quote unquote protect Io by imagining the worst of the worst, so that if something happens, you're already mentally prepared. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I already explained that I'm an overthinker, and I had to address that and work. For the last 2 years, I've been working on that. Like it is, your goal is to be happy. And you creating these scenarios is not going to make you happy. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't even know why you do it. So that's something that you have to stop doing. And one of my friends sat me down and he was like, perhaps, are you afraid of being happy? And I was like, what? That's ridiculous. I'm on this journey. I'm trying to be happy. He was like, yes, but it sounds like you are afraid to just be happy and sit in your happiness. And so this is why these scenarios come up in your mind, or this is why you don't want to communicate XYZ to your partner, because you'd rather be unhappy. Like you'd rather just sit in this space, like you're comfortable here. You're more comfortable running, you're more comfortable in conflict than just sitting and expressing yourself and actually being happy. So, my dear listeners, one of the biggest things that I had to address was my fear of being happy. I think secretively, a part of me was like, I left my ex-husband and that made him sad. and that made my daughter sad. And so do I really deserve to move on and be happy? And it sounds really, really messed up, but I think there was a part of me that was really struggling with finding happiness again because I was the one who decided to leave my marriage. Another thing that I feared, I was deathly afraid. And when I say deathly, I am not joking. Afraid of loving someone and being hurt. So if you've listened to other episodes, I talk about wanting to have sex and being able to climax without love. Part of that was strictly just control issues and power and me wanting to be able to do that without being vulnerable. Another part of it was me just really not wanting to be hurt again. Now, at my age, fortunately, my family members, were just like, you're going to love somebody again. Like, it's inevitable. You're so loving. You're so corny. You're so mushy. Like, it's going to happen. And I was like, well, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but I damn sure ain't looking for the shit. Like, I'm chilling. I'm good. Like, he can bring me some Wingstop and he can bring the dick. I'm good with that right now. Like, we don't really need love over here right now. It's 2017, 2018. It's all good. All I can say is that life comes at you fast. And so sometimes the thing that you're running away from is what you run right into. And for me, I remember I started thinking about love again, maybe, well, not 2 years after having sex, but I guess it has been about 2 years now. So now it's 2019, and this is the first time I'm thinking about loving someone and loving without fear. Because last year, no, love was not on the list because I was just like, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to be hurt. And unfortunately for me, one of the main reasons why I was afraid of loving was I associated love with fuckery. So what that means in layman's terms is once a man realizes that you love him, then he starts doing dumb shit. Because it's like, oh, well, she loves me, so I can do whatever I want now because she's going to put up with it because she loves me. And I just didn't even want to get into that really push and pull relationship with a man. And so my answer to that was to just not love, period, which is obviously ridiculous because people that know me know that I'm so loving and caring, and it's just like, you can't escape it. I do everything from a place of love because that's just where I am. So for me to think that I could navigate having sex with men and love not be an issue was just really me being afraid of love. It wasn't a very realistic goal. And now we can move on to rejection. So we started to talk about rejection when I was talking about my anxiety over, would someone text me back or this or that? But it's a little deeper than that. And the issue is, why are you concerned with whether or not a man is rejecting you? And someone may say, well, that doesn't make any sense. If you like someone, you want them to like you back. But they don't have to. And that's okay. I can like someone and they not like me back. And guess what? I'm going to get up and go to work and go make my money. Like, it's not going to mess with my money. I'm still going to be okay. I'm still going to be happy. So why exactly was I afraid of being rejected? Long story short, most of my issues with rejection had nothing to do with a man or who I was having sex with. It had everything to do with issues from my childhood. This may not be the case for everyone listening, but I think that a lot of us, if we look back to what gives us fear, what gives us anxiety, what makes us feel rejected, it has nothing to do with the boyfriend. It has to do with how we process others' behavior, how we process love, our love language. It has to do with so many other things that have nothing to do with the man, right? Because if you sit down and talk to whoever your partner at the time is and try to understand, like, okay, well, when you did this, this is how I felt because it made me feel like you didn't respect my time, or it made me feel like you didn't want to spend time with me, period. Like, forget respecting my time. It made me feel like you didn't want to spend time with me at all. So I felt rejected. And when you sit down and talk with your partner, Once again, if you're in a loving situation, 90% of the time it's going to be like, no, that wasn't the case. Like I was just busy and I really didn't mean for it to happen that way, but this is what happened. Or I'm tired. It does not mean that I do want to spend time with you, but I want to give you the best version of myself. And I'm tired right now. So that's why I chose to stay home that night and rest instead of, hanging out with you. Once again, we're talking about loving scenarios with honest men, because we all know scenarios where you hear those excuses and they're full of shit and they weren't tired. They were out doing something else. So I don't want to negate that, but we're trying to, as women, get healthy within ourselves. And honestly, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter if he's telling the truth or lying. It's more important that you're comfortable within yourself and that you don't feel rejected. Because if he's telling the truth, why waste your time feeling rejected? If he's lying, why waste your time feeling rejected? Because if he's lying, you can always leave, right? And say that I don't want to be with someone that's lying about his feelings or lying about where he is. So long story short, the solutions are there. And even deeper than that, I remember saying to myself, like, why would you interact with someone that gives you this feeling, right? Why would you even want to interact with a man that lets you feel rejected or, just gives you that energy? But I do want to counter that, right? Why facing yourself is important is because sometimes simple behavior or simple misunderstandings can feel like rejection to you because you have healing to do. And that's a really important point that I want my listeners to understand. When you face yourself and you look at triggers like what makes me angry, what makes me afraid, what gives me anxiety, what makes me feel rejected, you will realize that sometimes it is not his behavior. It is your own issues, your own insecurity. And because I'm on my own personal path to happiness, I have to acknowledge it. I have to own it. And I have to make sure that I'm not transferring my stress, or transferring my negativity over to him. Does that make sense to you? So if you feel rejected because of something your partner did, but you realize that it's your own issues with rejection, it is not necessarily the act of what he did. I'm saying that I decided that it was my job to deal with why I was feeling rejected and not place all the responsibility on my partner to constantly coddle me and, like, oh my gosh, no, I love you. No, I accept you. I accept you. It was my job to look through the behavior and decode the behavior. It was my job to come out and say, hey, this made me feel this way. What was your intention? Right? Because you have a right to sit down and talk to your partner and ask them their intention. And I pray, once again, that you're in a situation where you have a healthy relationship, where you can trust that your partner is going to be honest and respect your vulnerability. Because I know sometimes men can be like, oh my gosh, here you go, you tripping. I told you I was at work, or I told you, and you could feel attacked, or you could feel like he's being condescending. And I pray that as you take time to heal yourself and work on yourself, that you also attract a partner that's willing to listen to you and be emotionally available when you have a moment. You're like, I'm not saying that you're wrong, sweetheart, but this is how I felt. And then you give him a chance to respond, right? And show you, okay, well, no, this is how I always want you to feel loved. And I apologize if you felt XYZ. Let me correct that. And in the future, this is how I'll handle that so that you know that it's all good over here. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about healthy relationships. Anger is the next thing I want to address. Anger/punishment. We all have our love languages. We all have a method in which we treat people and/or show people how we love them. So some of the things that I like to do is I like to spend time. That's a way, because I'm very busy. I work sometimes, I work anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week On top of that, I'm a mother, so I have to schedule time with my daughter to movies and fingernail polish and, play dates and all that stuff. So to me, time with me is how I'm showing you that you're important, because I didn't even mention the podcast and my entertainment projects and all the other stuff that I could be doing that's putting money in my pocket or something for myself that I can do. So when I spend time with you, I'm showing you that you are important to me and that you matter to me. Another thing that I like to do is I'm very thoughtful. So just in simple conversations, I like to listen to who you are, what you like, and then follow up on it. So another example is cooking. And this is not limited to people that I have sex with, by the way. Like, I do this for my friends as well, but this matters for your sexual relationships as well. So cooking. If you tell me something that you like to eat, I will offer to cook it for you. Once again, I've told you how many hours I work. So if I'm stopping what I'm doing to cook for you, outside of your birthday or something like that, like, it just means that I really actually care. Like, oh, this is a really cool person. You bring value to my life. And I'm showing you that I care about you through food. Once again, these are things that I do because I love food. Like, I love to eat. Absolutely love it. And I love if someone is listening and paying attention, like, oh, Ayodele likes Oreo cookies. Let me get some Oreo cookies. Or Ayodele likes this artist. Let me take her to this show. Or, just stuff like that. I like when people pay attention and are doing things that you actually like because they took the time to pay attention to you. So one of the biggest lessons I learned about, it's really like anger / expectations, is I found myself getting angry when people didn't love me or show me love, right? Because this is deeper than quote unquote actual saying I love you. I remember feeling angry when someone was not giving me the same energy that I gave them. It's like, oh, well, I did this for you. Why aren't you doing this for me? Like, well, I thought of this for you. Why aren't you thinking of this for me? And it's really not healthy to be that way, because people show their love in different ways. I wasted a lot of time and energy because I felt like someone didn't care, right? I felt like, oh, well, my partner doesn't care because they didn't do this. And when I cared, this is what I do. And I realized that a better way to handle myself was to just have a conversation, right? Which is, how do you feel? Here's what I have to say about anger. I wasted energy being angry at men for basically not being me, for not loving me the way I would love them. And I use love loosely. What I mean is love language more to say than love, just to be clear. So I like words of affirmation, physical touch. I like thoughtfulness. There's certain things that I like. And if I care about you, that is how I'm going to behave towards you. And you have to understand, like, take a step back and understand that's how you like to be loved. That may not even be how your partner wants to be loved. That's number one. And number two, it's much easier to have a discussion with whoever you choose to interact with and say, these are the things that I like. What do you like? What do you need? And even further, how do you like to show your partner, that you care or that you value them? Because for some men, simply listening to you and spending time with you is how they're going to show their affection. Like, I listened to her. Okay, she gave me this comment. I'm spending time. Okay, that is an act of love for them. That is a love language for them, because they could just be out with their friends or doing something else. Like, they don't have to give you that time. For some men, it's treats, or, okay, I'm planning this date, or I'm buying these flowers, and this is how I'm showing her, that I care about her. But it's important, long story short, it's important for both of you in the relationship to sit down and identify how are we going to show each other that we care about each other. And from that place, communicate. And even further, once again, going back to rejection, and it ties back into anger. If you realize that someone is not meeting your needs and you've had a conversation about it, like, this is what I need to feel loved, and you realize that they're not doing it. Anger, I understand that it's natural to be angry because I myself have dealt with this. Obviously, I'm a woman. But it's still not really necessary to be angry because it's like, you don't have to stay. You really don't. And if you choose to stay, acknowledge your role that I chose to stay in this situation and find a healthy way to stay. That's what I'm going to say to you. Because what good is being angry being angry over who this person is? That's not going to do any good. They are who they are. And if they have no desire to change and you have no desire to leave, it's both of you all's, responsibility to figure out a way to coexist without being angry. That's my attitude, especially if there are children involved. That's my attitude. And that's my choice for myself. I'm going to briefly talk about jealousy, and jealousy is going to be brief simply because I'm going to have a whole podcast dedicated to jealousy. The same way that I struggle with anxiety, I was having unhealthy, involuntary reactions with the men that I was having sex with. And what I mean by unhealthy, I'm going to be very, very vulnerable. Like, I remember in 2017, I remember thinking like, okay, well, when I go to meet this particular person, I'm only going to go with these type of friends because he may be attracted to this type of friend. Like, I'm talking about that level of jealousy. The rational part of me, I remember, because I have two sides. There's rational because I'm a lawyer, and then there's emotional because I'm just a human being. I'm a woman, Scorpio. But I remember being like, oh my gosh, first of all, that's ridiculous and disgusting. And like, no, you're doing too much. But at the same time, this is real. Like, we got to get real on this podcast. This was a real emotion I had, a real thought, a real feeling. Like, I don't want to bring certain women around this man because he may be attracted to her. And as I said, we're going to tackle jealousy I have a whole episode that I'm going to dedicate to jealousy. But what really helped me get over some of those irrational thoughts was understanding, once again, the concept of security. Like, if you're secure in yourself and who you are as a woman, and you're secure in the relationship that you have with your partner, you don't really need to waste time being jealous. Why? Your partner is either going to respect your boundaries or not respect your boundaries, right? You all have the responsibility to articulate your boundaries to each other and define them. And if your partner decides to operate outside of your boundaries, you have the decision to stay or to leave. Jealousy is not going to change their behavior. I want to say it one more time. Jealousy is not going to change their behavior. I have been a woman that is jealous. I have also been a woman that a girlfriend and or wife is jealous of. And I'm here to tell you that her jealousy over him did not change his behavior. He was still doing whatever the fuck he wanted to do because that's what people do. Human beings are going to do what they want to do. And that really helped me. It really helped me heal because it made me realize that me being jealous of anybody was a wasted emotion. Because if my partner wants to look at somebody else, or if my partner thinks someone else is beautiful, or have sex with somebody else, whatever they decide to do, my jealousy is not going to stop that. So why be jealous? And once again, I realize this is a rational discussion. Jealousy is it's an emotion. But when I looked at the people around me that are in relationships, especially the women, it's like we all know that men think other women are beautiful, just like we as women think other men are gorgeous or look good. Like, let's not get it twisted. It's not always one-sided. And we as women get approached sexually, married, unmarried, all the time. Right. And we have to make a decision like, no, I'm good where I am, or no, I want to try this out. You have to give your partner the same credit. And I know people like to say, oh, no, it's different for men. No, it's not different. It's not different. I don't care what people say. a man is either going to do something because that's what he wants to do, or he's not going to do it because he doesn't want to do it. To me, it's just that simple. We may be hardwired differently. Like some people may be more sexual, but I know women that are very sexual. You know what I'm saying? So the same could be true of a woman. She could just be like, look, we were in Cancun, things got out of hand, and I decided to have sex with him that night. And that's just what it is. And the same could be true of a man. But anyway, like I said, I have a whole episode dedicated to that. And then one of the last things that I had to face was the fact that I had learned some codependent behavior, like from my family, that I took with me into my marriage, and that I have to fight every day to let go of. Because I said some very, very specific prayer as I was moving out of my marriage and moving into having sex with people again and into finding a lover and all these things. I said some very specific prayers about what I know I needed moving forward, the type of energy and just personality and spirit of the man that I wanted to be with, because I know how I can be. It was very important to me that the man I was with me because that's what he wanted to be, like of his own free will. We're not together because of a label, like a boyfriend / husband / whatever, out of obligation. We're together because that's what the fuck we want to do, and we like being together. It was very important to me that the person be basically independent of me. Like, you don't really need me to make money, to make decisions for anything. Like, we're hanging, like, I want to hanging out with you to be a vacation and vice versa. If that makes sense. I don't want to worry about the financial status of him, and I don't really want him to worry about the financial status of me, because I wanted a different type of relationship. One where I was focused on friendship, pleasure, and healing, but healing in a different type of way. Not like we're about to be together forever. This is my boyfriend. This is my life partner, husband. Healing in a way of, this is someone that wants to see me happy just from their own free will. Like, they want to see me happy, and that's what we're working towards. Like, I want to see them happy. They want to see me happy. Very, very simple. With all of that, everything that I said about them wanting to see me happy, me understanding that my happiness is my responsibility. So the person that I'm with, it is not their job to make me happy. It is not their job to do really anything. It's a free choice that they have. Like, I want to add to her happiness. I want to add to the love in her life. I want to add to her sexual pleasure. But it's not like without me, she's not going to be happy or not going to feel loved. You know what I'm saying? That was very important. Believe it or not, not believe it or not. When you know what you want and you pray for what you want and you get what you want, you'll be surprised at just how difficult growth can be. Because what I found myself time and time again going back to old narratives and old behavior, because I wasn't used to being not needed, especially from a sexual partner, if that makes sense. Because I'm not going to get into the details of my marriage because that's not fair to him. Yeah, that's like the easiest way for me to say it. I wasn't used to not being needed. Even though that's what I wanted, I don't want to be needed. It's like, I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my daughter. I want you to want me. I want you to want to spend time with me, but I really wasn't used to being around somebody that really just didn't need me for anything. And that's just because I had been, married for 15 years, and that was a totally different type of relationship in terms of my commitment level and my responsibility and all that stuff. And I just decided that moving forward, I wanted something different. Okay, so handling conflict. When it comes to growth, I think one of the last things that was important for me is I identifying how I wanted to handle conflict moving forward and making sure that my partner and I were on the same page. So for me personally, I don't do well with men that yell, curse, do anything in a physical, like a physically threatening manner. And I'm not even talking about hitting, because that's like a non-starter. I just mean like, there are men that could, like, they may not hit you, but they may physically stop you from trying to leave if you're upset. Or things that men can do to make you feel physically intimidated. And that's not something that I'm here for or cool with at all. And that has nothing to do with like them actually physically hitting you. And yeah, I'm not really here for being in a relationship and we're handling conflict and you're yelling and screaming and cursing at me to try to get your point across. So it's important for me, like when I'm choosing a partner or interacting with someone, that they already know that about me, so that moving forward, you already know, like, I'm just not trying to engage in that manner. And even when it comes to anger, like, I'm really not trying to be angry. Like, we either have an issue that we need to resolve and we're going to resolve it, or I realize that we can't resolve this issue and we just need to kind of let each other go. You know, that's where I am in my life. So I'll tell you that I care about you. I'll tell you that how important you are to me, but I'm not really trying to change somebody or have them do something. I'll tell you what my boundaries are, and you have a choice for whether or not you want to respect them. Like, it's just that simple. It's really that simple. I think it's important for women to understand that's a big deal. Like, understanding that there will be conflict because you and your person are not the same. But part of facing yourself is you have the right to know, this is even if we're going to argue or have a disagreement, like these are the boundaries for having a disagreement. It's okay to say that going into a sexual relationship, lover, boyfriend, husband, whatever. Definitely boyfriend/husband. You definitely want to have those boundaries in place. Yeah, it's just important for you to understand that. And for me, that was a big part of my growth. Because at the end of the day, I always feel like it's important that I'm heard. It's important that I'm understood. Part of my maturity lets me know that every man is not going to want to hear me. Every man is not going to want to understand me. And that's okay, because I don't have to fuck you. Like, if you don't want to hear me and you don't want to understand me as a woman, then you're not the sexual partner for me, because that's very important for me. And when you get past your issue of rejection, like, and I'm speaking to myself, when I got past my issues of rejection, the thought of someone walking away or not wanting to be with me, like, I just kind of really became okay with it. Like, it's okay, because it's more important that I'm true to myself than I'm not true to myself and I'm not happy with you. Like, I already got divorced. Why would I sit around and not be happy with you? It just doesn't make sense. I've been fighting, like I said, not fighting, but just my growth is facing myself and facing certain triggers and certain issues has really been helpful in terms of setting myself free emotionally. And long story short, that leads to better sex. Because when you're not weighted down emotionally and you're not struggling with anxiety and fear or feeling rejected or jealousy or all the expectations of like this, that. And when I say expectations, I don't mean like standards that you have for yourself. I mean expectations that you didn't articulate to your partner that you're secretly getting upset about because you want them to automatically know that they're supposed to do this because of that. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, when you push past a lot of those things, for me, pushing past those things just helped me to feel freer. And now I'm engaging with my partner from a place where I'm sitting in my divine feminine power. Like, I'm sitting in my energy. I'm sitting in my honey. And it's like, I'm here because I want to be here. And I'm okay telling you I want to be here because I'm okay with myself. And if you decide you don't want to be here, that is okay. It really is okay. And it's taken a long time to get to that point. Even though someone may look at you and say, well, Ayo, you were already divorced. Like, what you mean? You have an issue with rejection. Like, you've already left your child's father. It's still tough moving on, new relationship to new relationship or new lover to new lover. It's still tough every single time because as humans, I think just naturally we want to feel love. We want to feel connected. If someone's making you feel good, you don't really want to lose that connection. But I had to start getting okay with understanding that that's okay. It's okay to lose a connection. It's okay. And the last thing that I think was very, very helpful for me was when I decided to forgive myself. Like, I know these things happened in the past. I know you put up with this in the past, but today is a new day and we're just moving forward. We're moving forward. And I started to affirm a different life for myself. So in the new life that I set out for myself and visualized for myself, I focused on my self-worth, and my self-worth was not attached to my relationship status. Because unfortunately, especially in America, it's like if you were a single woman, people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? You'll never find a man or don't no man want you. And that's an actual insult. And it's like, no, your worth, your value, none of that's connected to whether or not a man wants you to be his girlfriend or his wife. And I honestly think that that's a very dangerous concept to implant in the minds of young girls and women because it has them seeking validation for this from the title of boyfriend or husband. And it has nothing to do with being in a healthy relationship. It's literally based on the title of, oh my gosh, she's Mrs. Such and Such. And I have serious issues with that because I feel like it can lead to unhealthy situations. But going back to my affirmation, so I chose self-worth. I chose gratitude, being grateful for the life that I have, grateful for my health, grateful that I have somewhere safe to live, that I have a vehicle, that my daughter's in a good school, that I have work. Grateful for these simple things. Grateful that I'm able to move forward. Grateful for the lessons of my marriage. Grateful for the lessons of my divorce. Grateful for the lessons of past lovers. Grateful for the lessons of new lovers. Just walking with a sense of gratitude. Grateful for my new friendships and my life in Los Angeles. Just grateful for so much. Also, I've had to work on my own personal issues with patience. Just, things happen when they're supposed to happen. And patience to me is connected to trust. Like, do I trust the spirit of abundance? Do I trust myself to make good decisions? Especially when it comes to a lover. Like, do I actually say, Ayo, do you know what you want? Do you know what your boundaries are? Are you willing to fight to be in a healthy relationship? Are you willing to do all those things? Do you trust yourself to operate in a healthy manner? Okay, if you do, live your life. And last but not least, just opening up myself to love and desire. Like, I have the right to be loved. I have the right to give love. I have the right to desire happiness, to desire pleasure, to desire a safe space to be vulnerable. Like, I have the right to these desires. And so these are some of the things that once I started going through the process of facing my triggers and kind of emptying, like, I don't need this energy anymore. I don't need fear. I don't need anxiety. I don't need to be codependent. Let me work through these issues. I started to replenish myself spiritually and energetically with my own self-love and self-worth and gratitude and patience and trust and love and pleasure, and just shift my own expectations for myself. Because it's like, okay, now you faced yourself. What kind of woman do you want to be? What kind of mother do you want to be? What kind of lawyer do you want to be? What kind of producer do you want to be? What kind of lover do you want to be? What value are you going to bring to your partner? What parts of yourself are you comfortable sharing? What parts of yourself are you not comfortable sharing? And being okay with that. One of the most beautiful things that happened to me about understanding that I wanted a healthy relationship and that I wanted to let certain things go was that you can attract a partner that gives you what you need. Even when you don't know it, like they're giving you what you need. Like sometimes you need space, and because you're used to a codependent situation, you don't even know how to handle space because you just weren't used to that. Or in my case, I was married, and so like space is just not something you got. You were just always around somebody. But when you're growing and you're on your own journey, space gives you time to think about what kind of person you want to be outside of a particular person, right? So that you can think like, I want this in a partner, and you're not limiting yourself to the man or woman that you're with, right? You're thinking about your own needs from a very selfish standpoint. So I've been very grateful for the time that I've had alone to think about, who do I want to be with? And not only who do I want to be with, but what kind of woman do I want to be? And I want to bring the healthiest, sexiest, most spiritually grounded version of myself to my partner. Like that was important to me. Why? Because that's what I want. I want the healthiest, sexiest, spiritually grounded version of my mate. That's what I want back. So it's my belief that me taking time to face these issues within myself has led to a better sexual connection, because I've pushed past so many issues of anxiety, fear, overthinking. I know how I want to handle conflict. And it also helps me feel free that when I decide to say, okay, well, I want a boyfriend, or I want a husband, or I'm ready to choose a life partner, or whatever I decide, I feel like, okay, you've done a lot of work on yourself, and your choices are going to be your own. They're not limited by what society thinks you should be doing or what your friends or family think you should be doing. You've taken some time with yourself to identify what's going to make you happy, to identify your own issues, to make sure that you're not pushing your own issues onto your partner, so that once again, you're bringing the best version of yourself to your partner, and you're demanding that in return, because that's what you deserve. You deserve someone that has looked at themselves and is trying to be the best man they could be. And to me, it's important that that person is doing that outside of me. That's really sexy to me. A man that's like, I have good moral character. I'm sexually responsible. I'm financially responsible. I'm all of these things. I'm grounded spiritually. And I'm that way because I chose to be that way. Like, it has nothing to do with, oh, I found this woman that I want to marry, so let me get my shit together. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because sometimes that's how growth happens. Everybody's fucked up, and then you meet someone and you're like, damn, let me get my shit together because this is a good dude. And he says the same thing, like, I'm kind of fucked up, but this is a beautiful woman right here. Let me get my shit together. Ain't nothing wrong with that either. But I just feel like people are more successful when you decide, I'm getting my shit together because I want to get my shit together. Because I'm a big believer that nobody can really change you. Like, you make the decision to change because that was your decision. Yes, they can push you. Like, their love for you can be the impetus. It can push you. But ultimately they changed because they were ready to change. Thanks for listening to this episode of MILF Ministry Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and then share it. Merch is available at milfministry.com. You can join our live conversations about self-love, healing, and intimacy by following at MILF Ministry on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. My name is Ayodele Vassal. I'm an attorney, a creative, and a MILF. And I pray you always have honey for your spirits and honey for your lips.